I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Paul Jack,
Here.
Michael Girardi,
Here.
Dan Carroll,
Here.
Kathy Carroll, Kathy Gilroy, here, Bob Christoph,
Here.
Frank Alexander,
He'll be late.
Val Holtman, here, Vincent Tusseri,
Here.
Matt Pitch,
Here. Okay, minutes, we're gonna postpone the motion on the minutes. There's some line items there that need to be corrected. Opportunity for residents to comment. Steve Sekeres.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Paul. I just wanted to let you know that my wife and I both support the police merger with Springdale Township. And secondly, where do we stand on the investigation of the incident up at Stony Brook Woods, the tent incident? I'd like to know where we stand with that.
Mayor, would you like to comment on that?
Certainly. I spoke with your wife the other day, I gave her a call.
She told me.
Oh, okay. And I updated her, so I assumed you would have known. There was really, it's in Harmer. It wasn't a Cheswick incident whatsoever. We were drawn into it eventually. Andrea was called and went up with the Harmer police officer, which asked her if he would then assist. After, when she readily agreed to assisting, she went over and found out what this guy was all about, questioned him and found out he was there, he was a bad guy, and she then arrested him.
What did they arrest him for?
Who was it?
It was for false ID, civil trespass, and
Something.
fleeing to avoid police because he knew he had a warrant.
I have a question also. There were 3 911 calls on that, and there was no response to it for 13 days. Is that the way we respond to 911 calls?
Again, this was not a Cheswick
I understand that, but
situation.
if you were walking down the
This is
street...
Harmerville. Excuse me, this is Harmer. Go down there and complain to Jason Domratz, he's the chief. We had nothing to do with that.
Yep.
If we go into somebody else's jurisdiction, let's just put a little different situation involved. Say it's a robbery in one of their businesses down there. We can't go down there and make the arrest. We have to be invited to come. We have mutual aid agreements. But if we're not invited to come and assist, we can't do it. It's not our jurisdiction. If we would have arrested that man, not being in our jurisdiction, we could have sued our borough. There's a lot of implications. You can be upset over it. I'm sorry that you are. I don't understand.
It was in
why
these
you
people's
are.
backyard. That's
I
what got me.
understand.
It was right in their backyard.
It's in Harmerville.
Yeah, but there's a
Harmer.
woods there, and there's a highway between Springdale and...
Well, low grade, but
Yeah.
it's Harmerville. I don't care. I wish we had better lines of jurisdiction.
There's a lot of kids that play in those woods.
Executive.
I
And if
understand.
something would have
I play
happened,
there as I've Weston.
something would have happened up there, I don't know how you'd live that down.
Well, I don't need to live anything down. It's simply because it's not our jurisdiction. When we got the call, we responded. We did our job properly and thoroughly. We took care of the situation. Once we got invited into it immediately, then our people, our road workers, then dismantled the tent.
When you have a case like that where there is a jurisdictional problem, can't you call the other, can't you
We
call?
did. Oh, we did.
They didn't respond?
Well, that's not my fault that they didn't respond.
Because I know when they called the Harmer police chief down there, he responded the next day. He said, I was out of the office, he said, but I'm sorry, and he responded to it. Now, you would think
Chief
that
Scott called him that very same day he got called. So Chief Scott then definitely called Jason Domratz, who was off. He left a message. He then called Otto. Otto went down and called an officer, and then it's out of our hand. We can't police their jurisdiction. We can't do it until we get invited to do it. So I'm sorry you're upset, but we did everything properly.
I found out about it when I was leaving the house, when I was going out to the farm, and I saw these 3 cars parked along Low Grade Road.
Okay.
And one had some flashers on it. I don't know whether it was looked like a fireman's flashes. Anyhow, and then I saw 3 guys go up into the woods, and that's when I found out about it. And I guess that must have been when they were going up there to arrest them or whatever they were doing.
Possibly, I don't know.
But I just think it's disgraceful, really, that if had that been something really where this guy would do something to some of those kids up there,
I understand.
what do you do with that? You know, how do you handle that? I'm really
Yeah,
upset
well-
about it. So does a lot of other people.
Well, I'm sorry you're upset over it, but it's not our jurisdiction. That's what I don't understand, is why you don't understand. That wasn't our jurisdiction.
I don't understand. If I was walking down the street, and here's Springdale here, and here's Cheswick here,
Mhm.
and I saw somebody do something to somebody over there, do you think because there's a line between the two things, I'm not going to help them?
That's a different situation. That's not at all the situation. This was a standing place in a different jurisdiction. It's within Harmer. And this was the last one, I'm not gonna, if you want to set up a meeting, give me a call, I'll set up a meeting.
I'm not setting up any meetings.
Why not? Why not? You
Can
seem
I
to,
ask a couple questions?
Sure.
I don't know much about it, so the first 911 call occurred on what date, do we know?
Yeah, I can tell you, I got it right here.
According to the resident, it was 10/22, October
And
22nd.
was
And
this a-
Cheswick
Was
responded.
this a Cheswick resident that called?
Yes, it
And who did
was.
911 dispatch?
October 21st,
Yes. October 22nd. They called on the 21st.
and the 22nd,
No response.
And the
They called on the
24th.
22nd, and Officer Nick something
okay.
responded to the resident. It was dark, getting dusk, and the resident said to me, when I asked her about it, she said to me, "These are not the woods of Alaska." He refused to go down there only because he thought it was Harmer Township. He
You
went.
thought correctly that it was Harmer
No,
Township.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Correctly that it
I'm
was
sorry.
Harmer Township.
Exactly.
Not
They
his
went-
jurisdiction.
Kathy, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this is
No, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask
ridiculous.
some questions here. So, on the 21st, a Cheswick resident called and 911 dispatched Cheswick, is that correct?
Apparently.
Do you not know?
Hold on a second. Is this a continuing investigation?
No, it's
Yeah,
been
it's,
wrapped up.
I think we should have Michael check this out further. I really do. Michael, I'm sorry, you're public
Yeah.
safety, but
Check
I
what
think
out?
there's some, I
Well,
think there's some missing
I'm
loops
just
in it.
trying to figure out,
What kind of missing loops?
well, if.
Number one, I
Kathy,
asked you to
Kathy.
respond to me that Sunday, and you haven't, not a word from you. But you asked me they asked the office for the residents' names.
Yeah. Wanted to know
Did you
who-
call me?
No.
Thank you.
Saw no need. It was handled.
How would you have got the residents' names?
Oh, the office.
Because I gave them to the office.
Why?
They came to me
Why would they
because
come to you?
Because nobody responded back to them
No one
from
called me.
Cheswick
No
Borough.
one called me.
I
Other
heard
than
you knew on election day.
Pardon me?
I heard you knew on election
Kathy,
day. Thank
Okay,
you.
hold on.
I don't understand
Anything else,
that
Michael?
at all.
I just want to know
Yeah.
if, so I heard of 13 days when the first call and then the arrest was made. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that first call, did that come to Cheswick?
Yes.
So we knew about it for 13 days?
We
And
did.
I understand that it's in Harmer and we couldn't enter it. Well, why weren't we constantly on the horn to Harmer then to get them to get it done?
Harmer,
How many times did we call?
at least 3 times.
At least 3 times over 13 days?
They
So
assumed.
our residents are concerned that there's something going on in the woods behind them. I would have liked to seen us press a little bit harder on that. And that's, but I would like to find out some more. That, and based upon that information, I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I'm sorry that you are disappointed, but I think our police officers did their job properly.
I'm not saying that they should have entered Harmer and, no,
Harmer-
they should not have done that.
Harmer should have done their job.
But there's
Harmer
also an
should
extent
have
that when
done
we
their job.
recognize there's a problem that our residents are not happy about, we should probably be diligently pursuing that as much as we can. And
We call
3
them.
calls over 13 days is not that much. Did we not get a response? Were we not satisfied? Were we just going to let it go if Harmer didn't do anything?
Well, those are all hypothetical questions.
Well,
Yes.
no, but it's a serious concern.
I don't see it that way.
You don't
it-
you don't see that situation as a problem?
No, I didn't
regardless-
say that. I did not say that. I said I didn't see it as a serious situation for the way, not the situation that evolved, but the situation that the way our police handled it. I don't see it as a serious situation at all. They did their job, they did it properly, they did not go into other people's jurisdiction. They
I'm not saying
assisted
they
when
should
it was
have.
done.
I'm not
So-
saying they should have. I just would like to
So
see
what do you
it
say? Are
push
you
a
saying
little
we
bit
should have
harder.
opened ourselves up for
No, I'm
legality?
saying we should probably have called Harmer every single day until the matter was resolved. Not 3 times over 13 days.
I don't know how many times.
You told me 3. Now you don't know how many?
I said,
Really?
I believe it
Figure
was
these
3
things out.
times. I said,
You
I
know it was an
believe
issue.
it
You
was
probably
3
should know
times.
exactly what's going on. So
I do know.
I would like to get all the records regarding that issue.
Okay,
Fine.
we're starting to loop around now.
Start.
Engineers report?
I met with the solicitor this week. O'Reilly's is slowly moving forward. There is a land dispute disputing council's decision to approve it. So that will be moving forward. Vince can probably fill you in a little bit more on how things are going there. I also talked to Frank this morning. We're going to be looking at some ways of upgrading or looking at the water system and the distribution, looking for possible leaks that might be occurring.
Okay, so we interact with Guyla on that?
Yes. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's report?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is the police report for the month of November. We had police assist calls to Springdale. There's 14. 4 to Harmer, Lower Valley Ambulance Service. There's 5. 1 to the township. Police assisted by Springdale. There's 4. 1 from Harmer and 0 from the township. Number of accidents investigated, there were 2. Total miles patrolled, 3,263. Total calls for Cheswick, 149. We had, traffic citation issued, there's 5. Types of offenses, we had sexual assault, 1 with 1 arrest. DUI, 7 with 7 arrests. Simple assault, 1 with 1 arrest. Terroristic threats, 1 with 1 arrest. Theft, 1 with 1 arrest. Public intox, 1 with 1 arrest. Harassment, 1 with 1 arrest. Total offenses, 13. Total amount of persons arrested, 13. Amount of money, property stolen, $20.75. Recovered, $20.25. We didn't have any permits issued. We had total amount of fees collected, $1,041.49. Year to date, $11,109.90. That's all I have.
Thank you. Solicitor?
The only thing that I would report in the public is the fact that we are pleased to report that the DCED has approved the borrowing of the $125,000 loan. We're anticipating closing that transaction middle to end of next week. The rest of the items on my solicitor's report would have to be addressed in executive session because they involve legal matters and personnel and litigation.
Okay, we'll do that at the end. Budget, bill list. Can somebody make a motion to approve the bill list?
I make the motion to approve bill list number 11, 12, 18.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve bill list number 11, 12, 18. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Action on the tax anticipation loan.
I make the motion to approve the borough pursuing a tax anticipation note in the amount of $125,000 for 2019.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to obtain a tax anticipation loan for $125,000 for 2019. Discussion? Tax anticipation loans, the way that works is that boroughs budget money basically for the calendar year from January to January through December. So come the following year, theoretically, there's no money left because taxes don't start coming in until April. So a tax anticipation loan is a loan in anticipation of taxes coming in. And that sort of bridges the gap for the first quarter of the year. With that understood, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The NIMS, Public Works, can you make a motion on that?
Sure. I make the motion to approve the implementation of the National Incident Management System.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the implementation of the National Incident Management System. Discussion? Basically, that is a, as it says, it's an incident protection system. We've approved it in the past. There's some amendments that our regional director of emergency response is asking us to do. It's pretty well boilerplate, and we're going to proceed with voting on it. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Any old business? Any new business? I have a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion to go into executive session for litigation and employment and legal and everything else.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. We are going into executive session, and when we're done, we'll come back into regular session.
Okay, Brett?
Hey, should I start?
Let me make mine real quick so I don't forget about it. So I want to make a motion to reject all of the refuge bids that we had received on the 9th.
Yeah, I second it.
And to re-advertise.
I was going to do it in 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, I second it.
Quarterback one.
So we have a motion to
Thank you, Dan.
reject the bids that were received, the refuse bids that were received last week
On November 9th.
on November 9th. So we have a motion to reject the refuse bids that were received on November 9th. Can I have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to reject the bids received, refuse bids received on November 9th. Discussion? All those-
Just for,
Hold on a second.
apologize, just for edification of the council, because of the confusion with regard to the language on the collection of grass clippings.
Is that on?
Needs to be
Yes.
clarified. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to reject the bids received on November 9th because of confusion with a portion of that bid. Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
And then I make a motion to reauthorize bidding our refuge contract with an adjustment to the language regarding the grass clippings.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second to re-advertise?
Yes.
Re-advertise the bids for refuge with the corrections made,
Adjustments.
adjustments made. Second?
I'll second it.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Okay. So
Okay.
we're squared away there.
Okay, regarding the budgets, tonight I don't think we're gonna go into detail, but I'd like to kind of lay out a milestone chart or schedule that will get us to passing the budget and the tax ordinance on December 18th, and I appreciate Vince's office for sending me a flow chart, re-educating me in the process. Okay, so basically what I'd like to do tonight, I'd like to just give you an overview of the schedule, an overview of where we are in the budgeting process. You all have a pass out here of where we are as far as preparing the budget. We call it the proposed budget. It's pretty much, I'd
It's a
say
draft.
yeah, it's a draft. It's about 95% complete. But I'll go over a summary of that, and then I'll be asking each of you to review it, particularly with regard to the accounts, the revenues, and the expenses that fall under your chair, your various chairs. So like Kathy, you have streets, Gaia, you have water. And of course, I'll be glad to sit down with you or entertain your phone calls. You have zoning, you have recreation. And then I would like to schedule a meeting on the 28th where we would try to finalize this budget. Hopefully, you're calling me in the meantime, giving me your input, asking me questions, your concerns or whatever, so that I can be integrating this into the budget. So when we get here on the 28th, we'll have pretty much a proposed budget. Now, the
Would you mean November or December? Just,
November 28th.
no, okay, for sure.
That's the November 28th meeting. Now, the way the process is supposed to work is we then have to put notice into the paper that we have a proposed budget and give the residents or give whoever 10 days to inspect it from the notice. So with that, at that 28th meeting, if we're where we think we would like to be, we'll pretty much know we have a good budget, maybe some slight modifications, and a tax rate. Then we would put notice
paper by November 30th, on November 30th or sooner, but it'll probably be November 30th, with a notice that we're going to have a tax ordinance, and we have a prepared budget for inspection. So that 10 days will allow us, I'm trying not to have special meetings, by December 12th then, which is our next caucus, we would then be able to consider all the inputs from people reviewing it, the inspection and whatever, and we are allowed to make minor modifications to the budget, and we would do that on the December 12th meeting, and then on the December 18th or 19th meeting, depending on if Paul can make the 18th.
I can't make the
So it would be the 19th, then we would have our regular end of the year council meeting where we would pass the ordinance, well, we would adopt the budget, and we would pass the ordinance for the taxes. Does that sound okay, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Now, we used to hold a hearing, but at the caucus meeting on the 12th, from what Michelle tells me, there's no requirement that says you have to have a hearing. An actual hearing. But being that the budget will be on view for 10 days to our residents, and we will have put notice in the paper, I would say at the 12th meeting we could entertain any questions that people have. Now, what I would tell the office though is that, have the people call me first, maybe I can answer the questions. Okay, so that would kind of be our plan. So in summary, tonight an overview, the 28th would be try to get to a pretty well finalized proposed budget. The 30th we would have notice. The 12th we would finalize, and the 28th we would, the 18th, 19th we would finalize the budget.
And at some point there, we have to basically advertise that we're shifting the meeting from the 18th to the 19th, and we're going to.
We can do all that tonight, or the 28th. We could, or we can put that in the notice.
Right.
In that notice, we can try. Can we do that, Vince?
Yeah, I think that you're obligated to decide on and then advertise your meeting dates for the upcoming year.
Oh, okay. All right. So another notice. Sorry. Okay.
Well, we can include it in the same notice.
Absolutely.
All right. So the reason I'm leading this obviously is because Ian resigned, and Paul asked me to lead it, and Ian did a good job of putting together a preliminary whatever for the budget. So he gave us a good base to get started, and then the last couple of weeks we've been trying to fill in the blanks. So we've come a long way. I've been doing these budgets for a long time, and there's a lot of good data in here, but there is still missing data. So, the one thing I want to qualify everybody in is that we're going to pass a budget with a lot of good data, but there is still some things missing. So that means during the year we're going to have to be diligent to watch as new information comes available, and we may have to make some modifications, not so much to the budget, but we're going to just have to watch our spending, particularly our cash flow.
So we'll work with our new borough secretary and point
And-
out things that we have to.
Oh, he's here.
I'm
So
still here, yes.
I'm excited about that because in order to get better data, we're going to have to continue to make numerous changes to the way we count. Now, up to now, there's been many changes and improvements, but we're going to need some further ones that became evident as we were trying to put this budget together. And
Especially along the lines of water.
yeah, the data's missing. Yeah, and so I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics, but you have this sheet right here. It's a cover sheet. I always like to start at the end, so then you know how excited you should be about the detail in the middle. Okay, so the way we do the budgets is it's a little different than many years ago because we've put all the account numbers together in one place, And then we have sub-budgets. We have a general fund, a water fund, a sewage fund, a refuge fund. And the way we do that is some account numbers are strictly for water, sewage, refuse, or general. In other cases, such as say a borough worker or certain things like the solicitor, we allocate a percentage of that account to each one of those accounts. So on this cover sheet, this kind of shows you where we are right now in the budget process, all right? The total budget is about $1.826 million in expenses and about $1.803 million in revenues. So we have a $23 million shortfall right now. Not million, $23,000 shortfall. Okay, so this is pretty good to be this close at this point, and we haven't even really started refining. Well, we've been doing some refining as we go along, but where we have the biggest shortfall is in the area of the general fund. We've got a $20,000 shortfall. In water, we have about a $5,000 shortfall. In sewage and refuse, we have a slight surplus, or that would be a surplus, or that would go into some kind of capital reserve. So if we pass this budget right now, we would need a slight tax increase. We have an assessed value there of $102 million. To get that, the way you get revenues for our budget, we get earned income tax and we get real estate tax. Those are the two major places. Earned income tax we have no control over. That's just what somebody pays, 0.5% to us and 0.5% to the school district on their wages if they live in our community. So really, we'd have to get most of that $20,000 in revenues either by slashing expenses, we could balance the budget, or we could raise taxes, which would be 0.19 mils, or about a 3.5% increase. So right now I feel pretty confident we're going to be able to balance the budget, but I just wanted to give you a feel for where we are right now. Okay? Just to put that into perspective, if somebody had a $100,000 home, they're paying about $560 in taxes. If we raise taxes to cover this $20,000, it would go up to $579, so it would be about a $19 increase in taxes. So, but you know, I think our goal is to try to balance the budget if we can. So that's where we are. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Do you think we're going to, if West Bend Power goes to LED, is there a chance that they could kick in next year?
There's lots of things. Yeah. There's probably 50 things in here, Bob, that we're going to have to make assumptions.
Right. Okay.
So usually in something like that, you're conservative. It's not good to assume something is going to happen that's not in your control, because if it doesn't happen, you're up the creek. So our approach in budgeting is very conservative, generally.
Right.
And you'll see that when we go through. Now, again, today, I don't think we want to go through the whole thing, but I've given you a sheet, and I plan on sending you an electronic copy of this, because this is hard to see, but I wanted to tell you what you have in front of you. Okay, so there's two parts of the budget. The first part is our revenues, the second part is our expenses. What Ian provided us with was, you'll see a column there that says 2016 P&L. That column there shows actuals for 2016, both in revenues and in expenditures. There's 2017 P&L. That's the actuals for 2017. This gives you a frame of reference to look at, but unfortunately, because of certain accounting practices that are different than we're doing now, or flawed accounting practices, a lot of this data is
Questionable.
yeah, you have to be very cautious in how you use it. Basically, what Paul and I have been doing is almost a zero-based budget. In the accounts that are large, we're referencing previous data, but in general, like for example, in water, we're not looking at, we're trying to do it from a zero base. By zero bases, we're trying to figure it out from current information versus what happened historically, because a lot of these accounts were tainted where things were put in or weren't put in or combined or whatever. So the next 2018 that's our 2018 budget. That's not what we spent in 2018, that's our budget for 2018. So and then your fourth frame of reference is what we've actually spent January through October. And by the way, I should have changed that. That's through October. That's not October 13th. That was upgraded to show the latest, okay? So, you know, some people, what they like to do is they say, oh, we've spent $500,000 January through October, divide that by 10, that's $50,000, and in November and December we'll spend another $50,000, and that's the way they would budget. No, we're not doing that, except in some real small accounts. So you have 4 frames of reference there. 2019 regular budget. Those are the numbers that, based on zero base or based on sometimes historical, that's where we came up with the numbers for revenues and budgets and expenditures for 2019. And then the next column are projects that we plan on doing. We broke out projects because they're special. They're typically one-time expenditures. So we wanted to separate that from the other data. And then the final column is the total 2019 budget for each account number. So that's the number, that column is what we use to make up this summary. The final column is our notes, and often that final column will tell you exactly how we calculated the budget. It'll tell you the algorithm we used. When I give you the spreadsheet, when I send it to you over the email, if you want to see how something was figured out, just click on it and you'll see the equation there. Okay, and then there's going to be all kinds of backup data. The final thing is, if you look way over to the left, you see a GWSRO. What that is, and we'll go into that more on next Wednesday, but that's the percentage of that account that was allocated to the sub-account. So for example, if you look at the very first thing, which is taxes that we get from real estate taxes, and there's a 1 there, that's like 100%. So 100% of that revenues goes to the general fund. But like if let's say, let's go to some expenditures, expenses, look in account 400, okay, on the back of the first page. In that case there, we've actually allocated some of those accounts. Like for example, the borough secretary, we've said 80% goes to the general fund, 10% goes to water. I gotta fix that.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, I gotta fix that. I had changed something and that should be another 5%, but I'll fix that. But anyways, I'll clean that up before I send it to you. But that's how we allocate that account if that account transcends the sub-accounts. And by the way, look for errors, because I'm not perfect. Ian's not perfect.
There's lots of numbers here and lots of equations.
Yeah, lots of, I mean, I can't tell you how many times every time I look at it, I find another error. So, and I find errors from last year, so, you know, it's a process where we're trying to get perfect, but it's asymptotic. We probably will never get there, but, so, here's your homework assignment. Look this over. You don't have to understand everything, but look it over. If you have any questions, call me. But the thing I want you to look at most carefully are the things that you have an expertise in, or you have a genuine concern about, or a desire about, or whatever you have for your particular part of council. And come prepared. Call me if something needs changed, or come prepared at the 28th meeting to at least discuss that part of it, okay? In other cases, it's going to be impossible for you to understand or know everything. Try your best. I put it together and I'm still having trouble understanding everything. So don't, there's no question it's off limits. And next week then, we'll run down every account. That sounds like an awesome task, but many of them are just going to be slam dunks. We're just going to say, either that's not a lot of money, it's a little consequence, or that one's obvious, and we'll just run down. But focus on the ones that you have a concern about. And then we'll make modifications. Hopefully we'll balance these accounts, and then we'll make the notification and move forward with passing this budget. I commend the people that have been working on this the last couple of years, cleaning it up. It's so much more clean than it's been in years, but it still needs probably another year or two to really get it down to the point where the data is so accurate that water, just because of the way we counted in the water area. Lots of things. It wasn't that things were done bad. Well, I would say incorrectly. They were just all kept together, and it's hard to figure out what was spent where when it comes to budgeting. As you know, we put our water, sewage, and refuse together, and accounting-wise, those are always kept together. And then you go and you try to figure out the water rate, but I think we got a pretty good handle on it.
And we can use our water billing system to separate that out now. We're
Right.
learning how to do that. So. Okay, any questions?
I do want to go over these dates again. November 28th is.
Okay, so November 28th,
Okay.
We'll continue this meeting.
Right, so I'm going to make a motion that we don't adjourn this meeting, and that we continue this meeting on Wednesday, November 28th, to discuss this and other general business of council.
At 7 p.m.
At 7?
Yeah, at 7 p.m.
Second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this meeting on Wednesday, November 28th at 7 p.m. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.